Alright guys, the poly market is completely out of control. Let's look at this image. Well, it's an AI. It's understandable. But that is what happened in Charles de Gaulle Airport. We yet don't have the actual image. But French police is investigating alleged tampering with National Weather Forecasting Service equipment after a series of unusual temperature readings coincided with suspicious winning bets made on poly market. So more than $500,000 in play of the bets on the temperature readings in Paris city. So you can bet on everything. It's not about the sport events, it's about a freaking temperature. Daily things, yeah, special military operations. There were also bets on poly market on which city Russia would occupy next. I think that now they should bet vice versa of where Ukraine would start its next counterattack. So in Paris something went wrong with the temperature detection system. It rose unexpectedly by 5 degrees centigrade, and that's quite a lot. And at least one wager appears to have been laid just before the temperature spike, resulting in $21,000 profit on anonymous user. So not only you may bet on poly market, but also you may do it anonymously. So potentially if you have an access to disturb the outcome of the betting, or you know some of the information, you may even go incognito on poly market without being exposed. This is outrageous, I would say, and it could be even dangerous in this case. I'm gonna explain you why, because I'm an aviation guy, used to be a pilot, so I know the stuff. And yes, the video that I showed you was, after all, AI generated. It is mentioned over here in this article. It showed the man pointing the hairdryer towards the weather detection system. It's not just the thermometer, I'm telling you, it's the system. Well, at the same time, French police confirmed that they have received a complaint from Météo France, and Cybercrime Division was investigating this case, is investigating. The forecasting service told Financial Times that physical finding on one of our instruments and the analysis of the sensor data led to the file to be complained. So it was a physical intervention into a temperature detection. Of course, poly market has stopped using the sensor in Charles de Gaulle Airport as the metric use, and I would say it's kind of dangerous. Yeah, for you, like, then you get this information, +3 degrees, -5, it doesn't really matter that much. It usually doesn't influence safety, but in those airports, the measurement should be very precise for pilots to calculate takeoff and landing performance of the airplane. Yes, before each flight, pilots do that stuff based on conditions, weather, length of the runway, well, in general, TODA, takeoff distance available, landing distance available, loading, center of gravity, everything of that is being calculated via software. Usually they're iPads. I done it every time for every flight, for takeoff, for landing, and temperature plays a great role because temperature influences density, and density is a lift force. So if you receive a wrong temperature, which could be by 5 degrees wrong, it could influence your settings for takeoff. You basically put in computer to save the resource of the engine, you derate them to produce the specific power or thrust, depends on your aircraft. So it gives you the optimum characteristics for, let's say, takeoff, yeah? And in case of the engine failure, you'll still have enough power to continue the flight under certain conditions with the airport elevation, with particular temperature and loading. And if you have higher temperature, you need to have more thrust. If you have lower temperature, you may reduce thrust more. Well, if some guy increased the temperature, in your calculations you'll have thrust settings more than you need, which is, well, it doesn't influence safety that much. But someone might bring some ice and put on those temperature detectors. Ice melts down and you'll not find the evidence, but the temperature would drop, and that is very serious. Because in your calculations, then you put the number into the data, you'll have less thrust than needed. And it would be okay for the normal takeoff, yeah, in most of the cases. But in case of the engine failure at the critical point, like for example V1, you will have to add thrust manually, and your existing thrust may not be enough for the airplane to continue its takeoff. So it is very crucial, and I'm, as a former airline pilot, I'm saying that it is wrong. Polymarket, you are freaking wrong. You accept the bets on absolutely everything without thinking about circumstances. By the way, Polymarket contacted me once, and probably they wanted to cooperate on my main Ukrainian update channel, maybe some of the advertisement or affiliation, because they could use my videos for prediction what is happening on the front lines. But I don't want to work with them. They're silly, they're dangerous, and I don't know what it could be for me to advertise them or to make integrations with Polymarket. It's like, the ugliest possible thing, even maybe uglier than cryptocurrency. And it's getting worse because now it is influencing security of the whole country and maybe entire world. Like, for example, Gannon Ken Van Dyke, accused of insider betting on Polymarket and was communication specialist supporting Joint Special Operation Command, overseeing unit like Delta Force and SEAL Team. Yeah, CBS writes about it. So this guy was included in planning the operation, but he conducted his fraud activity by betting of exact time of this operation to be conducted on Polymarket. He betted $30,000 and won roughly $400,000. That's quite a lot. What was suspicious for Polymarket that he tried to remove not just his money, yeah, he took them away, but he also told to Polymarket, please delete all of my information, close my email and forget about me. It's like robbing a bank and later on call them, okay, you have CCTV cameras? Delete all of the images, please. And of course, investigation has been started, but judging on the article, still there is no accusation for him to leak confidential information. So it's illegal betting, yes, but now DOJ is calm about definitely hard accusations, which could lock the guy for maybe dozens of years in prison. So yeah, those platforms like Polymarket, they're poorly regulated. They're allowed according to legislation, but they're dangerous, I would say, in a way. And I think after all, there should be restricted for some specific niches. Because if you start to unfold what happened in Maduro case, like for example, if Maduro was smarter, his regime, his intelligence office, they would look through those bets. Okay, someone put kind of the high bet on the planned operation for particular time, particular date. We should be kind of cautious about it, but Maduro was stupid. He even stayed at his own palace and was kidnapped by the United States of America. A really stupid guy, and dictators, they tend to overestimate their powers. Khamenei was also stupid, by the way, together with those military commanders who went to the residential building, usual place for Khamenei, and opening strikes happen, and he was flatlined together with his friends. Yeah, later on that special military operation for the United States went completely off rails, and the change of the high command of Iran does not lead to the change of regime and will not lead to that. But the opening day strikes, except the school, well, it was quite a surprise for me, I guess for many people as well, that Khamenei was killed. And maybe someone also bet on something that day on Polymarket. Those guys who have the access to this secret or closed information, they have the power to manipulate with that. And I would say that nowadays especially, information is the most precious resource. And restricting the information is also like the method of manipulation. This illegal game is happening not just on Polymarket. Just look at the stocks, futures of the oil. Someone really from the close Trump circle who has the information to what Donald Trump is up to post on Truth Social is clearly affiliated with betting, illegal betting, I would say, right before crazy Trump tweets go live. Well, usually Trump posts the information which is invalid or valid for a couple of the days, but markets react on that, and it is enough to play in short on the stock market. And some people, we don't know whom, they earn millions or sometimes up to billions of dollars on those fluctuations of the market. And without precise investigation, it's impossible to find out the real person. And we understand who controls prosecution office, Donald Trump himself. So investigation, the same as with Epstein case, will not be started. Absolutely. And if you want to know my experience with betting, I never did it. Never. So gambling is not my thing. Absolutely. I cannot rely my income or something which is happening in financial stuff with some of the luck, uncertainty, prediction. I never took even a credit in the bank in my life. Never did any betting, because uncertainty, especially in financial sphere, is not what I'm looking for. I can waste money, yeah, on microphones, on some of the gadgets. I have a gear acquisition syndrome. But betting money in attempt to gain some profit, maybe yes, maybe no. But those people who illegally bet and those who know the information, they're not risking. It's the money earning stuff for them. Really huge money it is possible to earn there. And so far it's kind of hard to restrict the illegal activity of manipulation of the market, especially prediction market and the stocks. Alright guys, that's all I want to be up today about. Ciao.